right, greetings. Thank you everyone who's currently attending. So we're not gonna wait a few moments? Okay, all right. So we're gonna start beginning the session now. My name is Kiana Rich. I'm the admissions consultant for the graduate school. This session is going to be for students who have been admitted for spring 2024. If you aren't admitted for 2024 but would still like to participate, feel free, but this is geared towards those students who are already admitted and enrolled for 2024. So I'm going to throw it over to our secondary panelists from International Student, sorry, I forgot the name of it.
International Student and Scholar Services here.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And we appreciate you being here and having us on. My name is Charter Morris. I'm Director of International Student and Scholar Services, and I'm here with Trong Nguyen, who is our Associate Director. Trong, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Trong Nguyen. I am the Associate Director of International Student and Scholar Services, and me and a civics coordinator are the ones that mainly handling your I-20s and DS-2019s. If you're come to UA and need a visa, you'll need a DS-2019 or an I-20 from our office, and we are the people behind the scene who issues the documents. I'm glad to be here today, and big to you all.
Okay. Well, thank you, Trong. So today I'm going to go ahead and share a screen. Hopefully this doesn't get all weird. If everybody can confirm if you're seeing my screen now, that would be great. So what I'm going to do is kind of go over just some frequently asked questions, some things to prepare for as you get ready for your long journey to the University of Alabama for January. Now, for those who may not be coming in spring, this will be just as useful for you for future terms. So really what I wanted to kind of go over are just a few basics. Now, one of the first things is just to remind you how to get in touch with us if you have questions. So the graduate school handles your admissions. They're also your resource for any academic issues or anything else that come along. You work with your academic departments on those as well. Our office is primarily focused on visa support for you and your family. So if you have a spouse or children who would come under an F2 or a J2 visa, we would work with you on that. We also do a lot of programming through the year, and the way you can get in touch with us is simply to email us at international@ua.edu. You can also find us on the website, international.ua.edu. And then when you go there, you'll see Student and Scholar Services linked at the top, and it'll take you to our page as part of the International website. We operate Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:45, like most offices here on campus. Now, if you are admitted for spring but do not yet have your I-20 or your DS-2019, keep in mind our deadline is fast approaching. So today is November 28th. Generally, our deadline is about 1 month before the start of classes. Excuse me. And so for spring 2024, our deadline is December 8th, which is next Friday. So that is the deadline to submit all your documents to obtain your I-20. That gives you approximately 1 month to obtain your visa and to enter the U.S. There are exceptions to these deadlines. If you're already here in the U.S., you're attending another university on an F1 or a J1 visa, we, of course, don't need you to submit those that early if you're just transferring your visa records from one institution to another. There are sometimes exceptions that can be made if you already have a valid visa and your passport and you're just coming to begin your studies with us. In those scenarios, we can look past this deadline. But if you are a new student and you're outside of the U.S. And your first time applying for a student visa, really and truly this December 8th deadline is the ultimate deadline. We can't go past that just because of the fact that it is nearly impossible to book a visa appointment and obtain entry to the U.S. in such a short period of time. If you're admitted for summer, the deadline is April 30th for those beginning May 28th classes. And if for fall 2024, the deadline is July 17th, just a little over a week, a little over a month, 5 weeks before the August 21st start date. So those are your general deadlines. Those are posted on our website. They're easy to find. One of the things I wanted to kind of address is not the finances necessarily to get your I-20 or your DS 2019. Again, I'm assuming most people on this call or on this session will have already obtained their I-20 and they're now going through the visa process. They may have already had their visa interview. But I did want to kind of point out the differences in what we estimate for costs versus your actual costs. A lot of students I have found don't do enough to prepare for the real world expenses that they'll face while they're here in the US. They may severely underestimate the cost of living, or they may severely underestimate their startup costs. So as you will see, to obtain an I-20, what we're asking for is 9 months of academic expenses and 12 months of living expenses. Which is your housing, your meals, and your personal expenses. Combined, our estimate is $53,046 for 1 year of living expenses plus 9 months of academic expenses. However, that isn't necessarily the actual cost that you'll end up paying. Of course, some of you may be on assistantships or scholarships that pay for the majority of your tuition and fees, but you may not have the exact same cost of living that everybody else has. It really kind of depends on where you live. It depends on what your dietary needs are. If you have a vegan diet, vegan diets tend to be a little bit more expensive just because of, especially if you're trying to eat organic. If you have other special dietary needs, you might have to go and search for kind of expensive ingredients from specialty grocery stores. You have other factors to consider. So what it might cost one individual to live in Tuscaloosa will vastly differ from another person. So it kind of just really depends. So when you look at this, just remember, these are our estimates. When we put this estimate together for the cost of housing, we explain it in our cost breakdown, but we base it off of what a single room costs to rent at in a multi-room or shared apartment. And we take that from an average of housing costs from the off-campus website. There are some that are much more expensive, and there are some that are less expensive. When we look at the meal plan, our meal costs, we're looking at what are considered USDA minimums, estimated for a person between the ages of 18 and 25 for their monthly grocery expenses. That is a federal government, U.S. Department of Agriculture, that makes these estimates, and they do that and adjust it month by month. So when we set this number, we're doing it in summer, it's going to be different by the time the fall semester comes around. Like month by month, these costs change. And just like everywhere in the world, we have been experiencing inflation here in the US. And so some costs have gone up for basic goods, especially for groceries. I think a lot of people have seen an impact there. So what we've estimated may not be as accurate for you. So just keep these things in mind. When we say it's $53,046, it's an estimate. So going into what you're going to face when you first get here. Now, when you're looking at housing, I want to be clear that for graduate students, on-campus housing is just generally not available. In the spring semester, there might be a little bit more flexibility for placement within university housing for on-campus apartments. However, on-campus apartments tend to be a little bit more expensive, especially for upfront costs. The university housing must be paid at the start of the semester for the entire semester. So you're not paying month to month to month, you're paying all 4 months all at once. And so rather than an apartment that might cost you $800 a month, you may be paying $3,200 on day one. If you're renting an apartment, most likely you're going to do it off campus where you might have some cheaper options, but be aware that when you do that, you're going to likely have a deposit every apartment you ever rent will require a deposit, and that might be at least 1 month of your rent. And then you'll have to pay your first and often your last month of rent up front. So what that means is you're paying your deposit equal to 1 month of rent, your first month of rent, and your last month of rent on the first day before you ever move into your apartments. And so you're paying 3 months in advance. Some may actually require you to pay more than that as a security deposit. So just be aware of this. We also recommend be sure to read through the full terms of your lease before you sign. This is a contract. It is a contract that is fixed, that cannot be broken without paying penalties. You may be required to continue paying your landlord regardless of whether you've moved out. So just be aware, don't sign the lease. When you sign a lease, you're promising to pay the landlord or the owners of the apartment for the entire time of the lease listed or the dates listed on the lease. So ending the lease early can cost you a lot. You can lose your rental deposit, or you may still have to pay even though you don't live there. We also recommend don't sign a lease unseen. What that means is don't sign a lease now for a contract for an apartment before you arrive to the US. Any number of things could happen. Maybe your visa gets denied. Maybe you're not able to make it on time. There may be an emergency back home that keeps you from arriving here as planned for the spring semester. But now you've signed a lease and a contract that requires you to pay rent in the US on an apartment you'll never move into. More than that, what I see most often happen is people sign leases before they arrive, and then they realize it's not exactly as close as they thought it was going to be to campus, and so it's not an ideal location, or it's not nearly as nice as it looked like in the pictures. Everybody has great pictures on the internet, and then when you see it in person, you're like, oh, no, this is not what I expected. That's why it's important for you to arrive, look at the apartment, and then sign the lease. You inspect it. You want to make sure that there's no damages or anything that you would need to be repaired before you move in, that you understand the condition of the apartment before you take over this contract with it. So this is one of the things that you need to be aware of as you prepare to come to the US and start your studies and your life here. It's going to be a big upfront cost. Your housing will be your highest upfront cost that you'll have for your first week here in the US. Other expenses to factor are the things like utilities. So in the US, we refer to electricity, water, sewer services, garbage, recycling. All those services are considered utility services. And utility services will also sometimes require you to separately set up contracts. It depends on the place where you live. Sometimes apartments have everything included in the rent. So look at the terms of the rent. They may also automatically provide you electricity and water and sewer and garbage, and it's all included in the cost of the apartment. But some apartments you have to separately get those services. And so if you do, you're going to have money to set up those accounts and have deposits with them. This is true for everybody. When you move to anywhere in the US, utility services will be something that you have to plan for. You'll need to plan for small purchases like bedding, utensils, and cookware. Now, luckily, we have a great community organization here that has done a great job of securing donated furniture and donated items. These are used items from community members who've donated these items, so they're not brand new, but they are still useful. They may not be the latest and greatest, but they will work, and they are something that can be provided for free. But if you want brand new items, you're going to have to plan to purchase that. Typically, bedding is not something that you will find donated. Most people would prefer to purchase brand new just because of hygiene issues. Large purchases you may have to worry about, like if you have a computer requirement for your program of study, you might have to purchase that here because you may not have one that will be usable in the US, or you may not have the software requirements. So just keep in mind those things. Groceries, toiletries, and supplies. You can only bring so much in the couple of bags that you're allowed to carry with you to the US. And so you're going to have a lot of things that you need to purchase. And then transportation. Some apartments do provide transportation and services that connect you to campus, but not all of them do, and they may not run all the time. They may only run Monday through Friday. So you may have to plan for, what do you do on weekends, or what do you do after hours when the services aren't running? You may have to pay for Uber or Lyft. You may have to eventually purchase a car. Many people find that having a car is nearly essential for your transportation needs. Some people get here and they have no problems working with the public transportation system that we have. So just be aware of these expenses that you might need to factor. Like, you need to determine yourself what it is that you'll need and what your expectations will be. So I'm saying all this to kind of set the expectation. Your first month, or your first few months, will be your most expensive months. And as you prepare, you need to think about having at least 3 months of expenses on day one. We recommend $2,000 to $4,000 for startup expenses in your first weeks, so that you can get that taken care of as quickly as you can. Now, I realize I didn't edit this about the end of August, just transplant August for January. But if you're on scholarship or you receive a stipend, if you have an assistantship, your first stipend payment will come at the end of the first month. So that means you might be starting classes on January 10th, but your first payment from the university will be on January 31st. So you are not going to have a source of income in those first critical few weeks. You're going to have to bring money with you, and there's no emergency funds or no funds from the university that will cover these expenses for you. So you need to anticipate you have to bring this money. This is true of any university that you're going to go to. So as you prepare, like, just make sure that you're setting some money aside and you're being realistic about these initial expenses. So how early can you arrive? You're actually going to be able to arrive if you're admitted for January. You have a January I-20. You're able to arrive as early as December 4th, which is this coming Monday. So it is really soon. You're allowed to enter up to 30 days prior to the report date listed on your I-20 or your DS 2019. So again, for most of y'all, this is going to be as early as next week. Now, I don't recommend arriving next week. Arriving a month early is a little difficult. It does give you more time to get settled in, of course, the earlier you arrive, but you might find challenges getting an apartment. Maybe the rental begins from January 1, so you may be stuck renting a hotel room or staying in temporary accommodations for several weeks. What I would recommend is plan to arrive about a week before classes. That is usually more than enough time to get settled in. Our report date of January 4th is generally a week before classes, or January 3rd, sorry, is a week before classes. And so that is why we put that report date on there, is to allow you to arrive early enough to attend any orientations, to get settled in, to get your documents all sorted out, and to get moved in. It's also when we're open. We are closed through January 2nd at the university for the holidays, and we reopen on January 3rd. So arriving before January 3rd, you're welcome to arrive, but I want to be realistic that there are very few people who will be on campus except for emergency services. And so there really won't be the resources that you need in those first critical weeks if you arrive too early. Now, some students do arrive really early, but not necessarily to come to Tuscaloosa. Maybe they're going to visit family or friends that already live in the US. Perfectly fine. If you've got somebody to stay with, please do, but just keep these things in mind when you arrive early. This is true whether we're talking about a January start date or later in future semesters like the summer or fall in August. Arriving early can be a little bit of a challenge with the timing of the start of leases and contracts for your housing. So moving beyond that, how do you get here? So getting to Tuscaloosa, our closest airport is Birmingham Shuttlesworth Airport. The airport code is BHM. Famously, there is a couple who booked a flight to BHM, Birmingham, Alabama, rather than Birmingham, England, and they became a bit of celebrities around here because of that mistake. In fact, Birmingham, Alabama ended up hosting them and showing them around the city because it became an international news sensation. So be careful when you book your flight. Don't book it to England, book it to Alabama, BHM. There is also another major airport a little bit further away. Atlanta is probably the biggest airport in the United States, one of the biggest airports in the world. Its airport code is ATL. So many people do fly into Atlanta. Just be aware, it is about 3 hours by car from Tuscaloosa. So if you choose Atlanta, you might find more flight options, but you need to be prepared for longer and more expensive shuttle services. Shuttle services from Birmingham Shuttlesworth Airport to Tuscaloosa are available, and they cost between around $60 to $120 on average. You may find there's one service that is typically a little bit cheaper if you book it in advance. And then shuttle services from Atlanta can be more expensive. So factor that in with your overall transportation costs. Some students will ask about temporary housing. We do not have temporary housing on campus, unfortunately. You do need to realize that the University of Alabama has about 40,000 students, and we have housing on campus for about 9,000 students, and that's typically reserved for first-year students, freshmen, undergraduates. And so they have the priority for the housing on campus, and they're actually currently in those rooms. And so there are no empty rooms to just let someone stay in temporarily. You would have to look to a hotel or Airbnb or Vrbo or one of the furnished apartments that are like extended stay, where you can reserve it for several days or a week or even several weeks. So when you get here, if you get here early, we recommend looking at these. Yes, it's a little expensive up front, but you would need to have that accommodation temporarily. You may also want to reach out to, if you have haven't seen it already, but you may want to get in touch with some of the student organizations on campus. Some of the student organizations will be happy to help kind of place you with someone else from your country in order to get some temporary housing. You may be sleeping on a couch for a couple of days, but it may be a little bit easier to make that transition. We do also recommend reaching out to them to see if there's anybody maybe coming back and forth from the airport where you can do some ride sharing. Those things can be done, but it's a matter of just reaching out in advance. We have a great page on the student organizations on our website. Once you've arrived, the next step will be, of course, to attend orientations. Now, for the international student orientation, you can do this right now. You literally can do all the orientation requirements before you ever leave. It is all online. If you just go to this webpage here, which is on our international.ua.edu site, under international students, you'll find future and new students, and then there's orientation. What you're going to do is review the cultural adjustment and health resources, academic success and campus life sections, and then go through the immigration section. For me, this immigration section is the most important. You have to complete an immigration quiz to complete our orientation. It is multiple choice. Should be pretty straightforward and easy once you've watched the immigration video. The immigration video itself is not very long. It hits the basics about what to do to maintain your student visa status. So please do take a look at that. Take a look at it before you leave. You can kind of scroll through it. We have PDFs of our handouts. We have PDFs of the slides that you can access. It's also available through YouTube links. It's all there for you to access at any time. If your parents have questions and you want to share this information with them, they're welcome to look through it so that they're better aware of what it takes for you to maintain your status. So just take a look at that. For us, this is one of the most important things And then after that, to complete your check-in. Now, you cannot complete check-in until you have arrived in the US. Once you arrived in the US, you'll have what's called an I-94 record. That is an arrival departure record issued by Homeland Security. It's an electronic record, but we need that along with copies of your other documents, your contact information sheet, an acknowledgement of responsibility form. You're going to fill all that out and upload it to our check-in section. Again, on the orientation page, at the very last section, it has information about how to complete this with links to each of the things that you need to upload and links to the upload portal. It's pretty clear, straightforward. And if you have any issues or problems, you can contact our office and we'll be happy to help. So that is what we would need to then be able to validate your immigration records. So you've arrived to the US. Once you complete this check-in process and submit it to us, within about a day to 2 days, business days, we will be able to get your immigration record validated, which must be done before you can do things like get your social security number or get a driver's license or complete the I-9 verification for your employment on campus. These things need to be done, of course, for students who are on graduate assistantships, you need to have your record validated. So take care of this shortly after arrival so that we can get that all validated and you're good to go. Don't forget that you have some other orientations to be involved in. Graduate orientation and welcome, GROW, is done through the graduate school, who's hosting this webinar. They do that in early January. It's going to be just a couple of days before classes begin. I believe on January 8th is the day of that. It's usually an afternoon orientation. Please do register in advance so that you're on that. For those who are graduate teaching assistants, unfortunately, the GTA workshop is not offered in spring. Correct me if I'm wrong, friends from the graduate school. I think it's only in August that they do the workshop. Anyway, I will say it's only in August that they do this workshop. So if you are on a graduate teaching assistantship, you would have to plan to, you're probably in the fall semester going to have to attend that GTA workshop if you're beginning with us in the spring semester. And again, I'm just going to leave it with our contact information, which is here. We are located on campus in B.B. Comer Hall. We're very central to campus, so it should not be hard to find. Look for the building with the flags on the front, and you'll know where we are. We're, again, open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:45. We do have open advising via Zoom and in person Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. So if you ever need to see an advisor, you can. Of course, our front office can always help you with basic questions. And if you have simple questions that you just need an email answer to, just feel free to email us at international@ua.edu and we'll be happy to help you. And so that's the basics that I wanted to kind of cover today. I know that there might be other questions out there, and I don't know if we have anybody in chat or placing anything in the Q&A, but you got us, and we're happy to answer what we can.
All right, thank you for that wealth of information, Charter. Does anyone have any questions?
So Kiana, is the workshop, the GTA workshop, only available in the fall semester and not the spring?
That I don't know. That's headed by Dr. Andre Denham, so I don't know anything regarding GTA. Let's see. If students have questions regarding GTA, they're more than welcome to contact us at gradschool@ua.edu, and we can connect them with the proper channel for them to get information regarding GTA workshops.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So let me go ahead and put our website there, our email there in the chat. So if y'all think of any questions you have for us, then you can just feel free to send them to gradschool@ua.edu. We're gonna hang around for a little bit if you have any questions that you need answered now. But if not, then, and you think of something later, just feel free to email us. And we'll be sure to get you to connect to the proper person to answer that question.
And I'm gonna put our email, our office email right here too, if anybody have any questions related to visa or immigration, you can email us. Make sure that I spell it right.
And I think grad school might have to reshare this, that email address out, because I think we can only talk with hosts and panelists. Ah, there we
All right, so if there's no further questions, is there anything else you'd like to add, Charter?
No, we're really looking forward to, I know I kind of covered a lot of information. I'm trying to just cover the basics for, you know, what to expect. It's a big transition, but it's going to be a good one. It will be cold. January is our coldest month. While it does not snow often in Alabama, do prepare for freezing weather in the month of January. You might see a sprinkling of snow, but it will not necessarily stay on the ground. But, you know, dress warmly. And if you don't have winter weather gear, you can purchase it once you get here. I mean, a coat is easy to obtain. But other than that, you know, I would say one of the things that you might want to do is pack anything that you want to keep from home. We do a lot of festivals, a lot of events here. So bring native clothes, things that speak to your culture. You're going to have opportunities to engage and to show off, you know, your home and share everything about what makes your place so special in the world. And so make sure to bring those things. I would say Trong is from Vietnam. I've lived abroad too. I know that you may share my sentiment. Bring some like things that you need to cook the dishes that you have to cook. Like spices are always very helpful. Every time that I go abroad to visit my wife's family, we always pack up on some spices that we just can't get here to make some of the dishes that we need. And so those are usually things that they don't have any problems with at customs for you to import. Now they don't let you bring in fresh fruits or, you know, vegetables or anything like that because those are not allowed. But you know, things that are packaged, things that are you know, just used in cooking or whatever, that typically is okay. But there are also plenty of things that are available here in the US if you look far enough, you know, so much that you can order online. But I will say the one thing that we can't find is specific things for like a few dishes, and we have to just stock up and bring it in our suitcases. Which means my clothing always smells like spices when I get back. Tron, would you add anything else?
No, just like on the line of like packing up, like any meat product won't be allowed to bring in the US. Like Charter say, any fresh fruits, anything that can be planted won't be allowed. But spices, dry food, packaged food, it will be all right to bring in. So that's all I need to add.
Thank you. We look forward for you all to be here in January. It'll be cold, but we'll be with you. And we can't wait to share everything that we do here. We have some great events and programming that will start after the classes begin on January 10th. And so I look forward to that. We will have a big welcome event at the end of that first week. So January 12th. We'll have a welcome event, so be on the lookout. We're going to send out invitations to that. We'll have it here in our office so that you'll get a chance to see where we are. If you haven't already stopped by, you'll get to meet other new students and you'll get to meet some of our current students because we invite everybody here. So be on the lookout for that. Please do go ahead and register for GROW. Graduate School does a great orientation. They do a lot of work to put that together. Tierney does a fantastic job of organizing that. She works at the graduate school. And so make sure to do that. I think it'll help set you on the right path for success here at the university and get you connected.
Right.
Thank you again for having us on. And I'll get these slides shared out as well. If you wanted to send that out to all the registrants, and that way they have access to the slides we've shared, which have the links embedded and everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for attending. We're going to end the session now.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.